Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hey!
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm Rico from Shout Festival, so I'm the festival manager. I'm just letting people in the room now, but I'm going to hand over to Casey, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the session. The session is being recorded, so if you don't want your face on the recording, then just stop your video and your video will disappear. Cool.
Okay, hi everybody. Nice to see you here today. Thanks for coming. You all look very smiley, which is good. Just a few things to start with. If you want to get some water or some tea or anything at any point, just disappear off. That's perfectly fine. Oh, someone's already got the water ready and the tea. If you want to sort of participate a lot, you can and have conversations. If you don't want to sort of talk a lot, that's also fine. If you don't want your video on, don't put it on. If you want it on, put it on. So trying to create sort of the space where you feel comfortable and there's no pressure on you to act in any particular way. So try to treat this like a sort of an environment where you can feel as safe as possible. So you'll notice I've got two videos up. So I've got the one you can see me smiling on, and then I've got this one over here, which I'm wiggling my fingers on now. So this video here is where you'll be able to see me sort of close-up drawing if I'm trying to show you a technique that we're going to do or demonstrate anything that you might want to undertake. So everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it's really great to see so many people who want to come to an event that is mainly for you and your own well-being, to try to relax during a time of great stress. So well done for making that choice in the first instance, because there are a lot of people who would be scared to make that choice or who wouldn't be willing to make the space for themselves. And sort of that spirit is what I want to look at today, really, around meditative art and art practices. So before I start, has anybody got any questions or anything they want to say to me before I start giving you tasks and explaining things to you?
Mm.
No?
No.
Sounds good.
Okay. Cool. Well, so during today, you can use whatever items you like to draw or create with. I just have standard white paper. And then in terms of tools, I've got a pen or a biro. Well, that's a mechanical pencil. So it doesn't really matter which item you use. You can use charcoal if you're more fancy, anything you like. So all of you should be able to take part in this, because hopefully all of you have at least a bit of paper and a biro if you want to do any activity. The other thing to say is, if you do like to listen to music when you're doing your art, which I know I really benefit from that, feel free to pop one earbud in and listen to me with the other ear. That's perfectly fine. So one of the things I wanted to mention at the beginning is a lot of the times people become really embroiled in how art is for other people. And we try to get a control of the process by thinking a lot and coming up with lots and lots of thoughts. And that gives us this false sense that we have control over the situation. but it's also quite restrictive, and it fills up your mind and the space in your mind and your creative space with things, lots and lots of things that are zapping around, and you're thinking that those things are helping you and that those things are going to give you motivation and creativity. But in essence, what they're doing is they're stopping you coming out with any creativity or any flow, because you're just full of all these thoughts all the time. And that's something that happens to people during lockdown generally as well. We think a lot, and it gives us a false sense of control. And then we get stressed because we're thinking all the time, and we're cramming so much into our brain that we're then immobilized and incapable of actually producing or doing very much at all. So that's the same in art. And what we want to do is try to create an expansive space of flow instead, where we can just enjoy the time and enjoy the moment. So I'm going to give you we're going to look at three areas of art. And the second two you can apply to any time you're doing any sort of art. The first thing we're going to do is a specific type of art practice. So just before we start, I'm going to ask you all just to sit with me and take 3 big, deep breaths, so that we can just kind of get into our bodies and get into our minds and come out of the space of lockdown and excitement. And maybe even you're excited about coming to this event and you're up there with the excitement. What we want to do is pull it back down and be very in ourselves. Okay, so just with me, if you just breathe in all the way in and hold it at the top and breathe out. Completely emptying your lungs, and then breathe in again. Holding it at the top and breathe out. And one more time, big deep breath in. And breathing out again. Okay, thank you for doing that with me. All right, so the breathing technique that we just did can be replicated as a drawing technique. So if you want to get a pencil or a pen or some paper or whatever you fancy, I'm going to use a biro. We're not looking for neatness here, so this is called functional art. So the first set of tasks we're going to do are all functional art tasks. Okay. So how you do this is you get your pen and you start at one edge of your page and you draw a line into the page. And then when you breathe in, you're going to draw up the page. When you breathe out, you're going to draw down the page like this. So you can do this in one of 2 ways. You can either have the line control your breathing, or your breathing can control the line. So I'm going to do it with the line controlling my breathing. So when I draw upwards, I'm going to breathe in.
What gives you your voice? Without it, you can't talk.
And then at the top, just curve over and then breathe out as I go down. And you may find you have sort of a natural way of doing this. So you'll see for me, I tend to create these sort of petal-like swoopy shapes. But some of you might be more enamored with more square shapes, or you might be more consistent with how you're drawing your lines. You might have shallower breath, and so be drawing much shorter lines like this. You might want to draw it more like a heartbeat, with points. And points at the top where you're holding for longer. And if you do want to stop and hold your breath, as some people do like to do that during breathing techniques, you just pause at the top or the bottom of the sheet with your line, and just you can sort of just draw a circle there while you're holding and go back to your breathing, holding again. And the combination of you drawing and breathing like this, finish off at the end with your line, is a way to focus your mind away from all of the chatter that might be going on. So you're focusing on two physical things. You've got the physical act of moving your hand and drawing, and then you've also got the act of taking deep breaths in and then releasing those breaths. So this is something you can do if you've ever considered taking meditation classes, but for some reason they haven't fit with you, or you're a bit anxious about what that means or what it does. This has the same sort of effect as performing a type of meditation you might do in a class. So that's a really simple technique. I hope you found that useful. And so I'm going to put this away now. If anyone has any questions or comments at any point, do feel free just to shout out. I think you have full control of your muting and unmuting, so you should just be able to unmute yourself and comment. And I can see your messages on the right of the screen as well, if you're a typey sort of person. I know I really love during lockdown the fact that we can type everything out, because that's my preferred form of communication. Thank you, Jack. I'm really glad. So we'll move on to the next one, if that's okay with everyone. So again, we're going to do a piece of functional art. This one's more about your physicality. So I've got a prepped drawing for you this time. So this is my little cookie monster. So this is what I want you to start off by drawing. So a little cookie monster of yourself. Your cookie monster can be however you perceive yourself to be. You can make it some sort of spindly legged alien if you fancy, or something with tentacles and a hat. I don't mind. Thank you, Charlotte. So we're going to start by drawing the cookie monster, and then I'll tell you what I want you to do with the cookie monster. Okay, so get going, and I'll give you a minute or so just to be creative and make your little monsters. You don't have to give them faces. I just like giving things silly faces. I can see you all hard at work. It's a good sign. So just remember, this is a functional piece of art. We're not looking for anybody to be Picasso, just creating a little cookie monster. And who doesn't love a little cookie monster? I brought one with me. This dude over here, his name is Eduardo. He came to keep me company during this presentation for you. Okay, how are we doing?
Yeah, fine, finished.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Good stuff. Okay then, so once you've got your Cookie Monster, we're going to use this to create a visual version of how we're feeling physically. So you're going to use shapes and patterns to visually represent how you're feeling in your body. So if you've created a bit of an interesting Cookie Monster, you're going to have to work out where your knees are versus where your Cookie Monster's knees are and things like that. So that'll be fun for you. So you'll need to sit and actually think about how you're feeling in your body and how your body feels to you right now in order to undertake this task. You may want to pause and do that separate to your drawing, or you might want to do it at the same time. But if I give you an example, so I do lots of fitness work. So at the moment, my knees are not very happy with me. So on my Cookie Monster, I'd probably start drawing some little triangles on his knees and some spikes and stars and things. Again, this is functional art. They can be however you want them to be. This isn't for anybody except you. So the shapes you draw and the way you draw them are for you and you alone. You can do it however you want. So I'm going to play along with you while we do this. I've got my very unhappy little knee there. The other one's not very happy either, so that's getting the same treatment, lots of triangles. Okay. And then if I'm sitting and thinking about how is the rest of me feeling? What's my neck feeling like? Am I quite tense? My shoulders quite tense? Am I quite relaxed? Is there pain or no pain? Do I feel cold? Do I feel warm? So I think for me, I'm fairly relaxed up here. I'll draw some little swirly doodles. I've eaten, so I'm not hungry, so I've got a nice placid lake of a tummy.
Is the volume not working?
And then probably have a bit of tension in my arms just from where I'm doing this drawing technique. And then at the moment, I'm a little bit anxious about all of the lockdown stuff. It's a little bit stressful. So probably going to give my head a bit of scribbly, anxious hair. So you may be able to see that. Got a sort of a slightly crazy looking Cookie Monster with scribbly things all over it and weird little doodles and wavy lines and crazy hair. So I give you the opportunity now, if any of you want to tell us about your Cookie Monster and how you're feeling. You don't have to by any means, but I thought I'd give you the opportunity if you fancy it. Now is your time. Unmute yourself, show us your Cookie Monster, and let us know how you're feeling. I know that's a big ask, isn't it? It's a very personal one, but it's out there. Oh, I can see some Cookie Monsters. Kit.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry.
Oh, Fab, who's that?
Julie.
Hiya, Julie.
Hi. Can you see my Cookie Monster?
I'm having a look. Oh, there it is. I can see your Cookie Monster. So, you got some dark colours there on your shoulders.
Yeah, it's really tense on my shoulders, and I get migraines, which is why my brain's hurting. And I see a chiropractor, but I've got a neck injury from a car accident, and my back and my legs, I've had 4 slip disc operations, so I've always got to have painkillers. I'll always have the pain there. So sometimes I'm happy and sometimes I'm sad.
Okay. That's great. Thank you, Julie. Thanks for sharing that with us. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I'm still working on mine. I just wanted to show you because it's actually can you hear me? I don't know if my mic is working.
I can hear you. Who is that?
It's Kit. I've never actually drawn my dysphoria before.
Okay.
And it feels really sort of nice to get that outside of my organism and put it somewhere, which is really nice. And it's really also helpful to make these things into colors.
Yeah.
And it feels a bit like an integration thing to do, to understand that's all part of my organism. It feels really nice to do that. So I'm kind of probably going to keep on going. This is mind blowing.
All right, fantastic.
Well.
So Kit, did you use some colors in your Cookie Monster?
I did.
Oh, fab. Oh, look at that. Love it.
So I've got a blocked ear and I don't know why. And I have chest pain and I don't know why. I've also got a dodgy knee and I'm not very fond of my hips.
Okay.
I've got hip dysphoria, I've got chest dysphoria, and it's kind of, and after I did that, it's like, yeah, but what's actually going on in the rest of my body? So it's sort of, because my arms are actually bulking up a bit, which is nice. I'm liking the shape of my arms these days, and I like my hair, and it's sort of, and I'm looking forward to like coloring in all my crazy thoughts. I've got a really fast head. Yeah, that's, so I'm actually gonna keep going. This is really awesome.
Fab. Thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate that. It's a really interesting way to choose to go about that. So drawing out your dysphoria. And we saw from Kit there a really interesting way of going about doing that. And Tallulah says, my knees are looking similar from lockdown fitness too. Yeah, so it's a thing, isn't it? The lockdown fitness is really hitting people's joints. Oh, how do I say this name? Devani? I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but good Cookie Monster. I like it.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'll leave some of you to carry on drawing in your Cookie Monsters. Sarah, I'm loving it. Brilliant. So if you want to carry on doing that, by all means. For those who want a new task to undertake, we're going to move on to the next challenge. So just to give you, I guess, an alternate version of this, we can do it later if we get a bit of time, but I'll just talk about it for a minute here first to let you know what it is, and we won't do it right now. So this one is all about your physical body and how you are feeling physically in your physical body. The other way you can do this is an emotional version of this sort of thing. So in that one, instead of drawing yourself as your Cookie Monster, you would create a safe space on the page for your emotions. So you create a boundary of emotional space on the page, either a circle or a square or a triangle or a star, anything you like, but it's, I mean, it could be a cookie monster if you fancy, but that would make it quite complicated for you. But ideally, it's just sort of a blob of space that is a safe space for you to release your emotions into. You would ideally use color in that version, and you would gradually just fill that space with the colors and the actions that feel like you at that particular time, or that express a particular thing that is going on for you at that time. So for example, if you had had an argument with somebody and you were still quite sore and raw over it, and it was sort of rolling around in your head like a little angry little beastie running about, then you might start kind of maybe with a bit of red and purple, sort of scratchy red and purple, and some explosions, and, you know, really get in there with the colors. And then once you'd filled the space, however you chose to fill that space, then you would sit with this image of your emotions and take it in, look at what you'd created, and look at it from a separate sort of objective point of view, and then give it a name. Give that thing a name. Treat it like it's a little alien creature that's come to talk to you. And once you've given it a name, either out loud or in your head, have a conversation with it. Ask it some questions. You know, why did you come here? What are you trying to tell me? How can I help you? And see what happens. See what the creature decides to tell you. See what comes up in your mind to ask. What have you chosen to ask that little creature? And then when you have chosen to ask them that, what did they choose to reply? And then after the conversation, you know, come back into yourself, reunite your parts, and think about the conversation you've just had, because in the end, it's all you. The questions you asked, the replies you gave, you separated it to create a conversation and an objective view of this emotional state. But really, it was all you. So what did you learn and what did you gain? So that's another way you can use functional art to help you when times are tough, or you're experiencing something difficult, or even just because you want to take some time for yourself. So we might do that later if we get a little bit of time. I can see some of you doodling away already, so I suspect some of you might have started to do that anyway, which is fine. So if you are undertaking that, I hope you're having fun. So we're going to come away from the functional art now and just look at two techniques that allow you to be more meditative and engaged in any sort of art that you do. So you can apply this to any drawing that you undertake at all, or painting, any physical piece of art, even with mosaics and things like that, but we're not really going to do any mosaicing today, only sort of pen and paper stuff. But it can be applied to any form of art you fancy applying it to. So the first version of this is to do with the lines of the artwork. So when you draw an image, you kind of have two different parts, I would say, that happen. You have the part where you're drawing all the details and the lines and the shapes and sort of the outline of the idea that's coming into your head, and you're creating it. And then as a secondary thing, you're then going to do all the shading and the specifics and the coloring in And they're two very different skills, and they create very different states of mind if you allow them to. So the first version of this, where you're drawing all your lines, is what you do when you inadvertently start doodling when you're not supposed to be. So I'm sure all of us have done this. I know I have, and I've often been told off for doing it in meetings and in school. It's really not great. Yeah, Jack, well done. You've been doodling today. So what happens is you know, you get to a point where you're not really engaged anymore and you distract yourself with a bit of a doodle. However, it doesn't always have to be a distraction. It can be something that's very focused. So this first version, this doodling and line work version, is a way of laser point focusing your mind to the exclusion of everything else. So all the things that are rattling around in your mind, what you're trying to do is give yourself a way to push all of the things out to the side and create the expansive space while you focus singularly on one task that is not difficult. So the task has to be something that you're not finding taxing and that you're not having to think too much about. So you get a new bit of paper and a pen or pencil. I'm going to use a biro again. So I've prepared a few different versions of this for you so you can see the sort of things that I mean. So on this bit of paper, you can see it's covered in dots and circles. I'm just going to fold this paper in half and in half again to give me more little squares of paper to work on. Feel free to do that if you don't have lots of paper. So this first doodle, you draw dots all over the page. So you literally mindlessly just draw, swap that around for you so you can see better, some dots. Haphazardly, don't have to think about it, just lots of little dots all over the place. And then once you've drawn your dots, you're going to pick one of the dots, the lucky dot, and you're going to draw ever increasing circles as if that dot were you having thrown a pebble into a pool of water. And the circles are then going to expand out. And when you hit another dot, you're going to stop. And then you're going to get to that other dot and you're going to start drawing the circles again. Only when it gets to the circle you've just drawn, you're not going to draw over the top of it. You're not going to impede it. You'll just start the circle, missing out the bit that would sit underneath that circle, like so. And if you fancy, you can pick another random dot and draw the entirety of the circles again. So this dot up here, maybe. And then do the same thing again when you hit another dot. And then you'll find one where, oh, the circle's going to hit two expanding circles that are already happening. So then you've got to skip over and draw the little lines around underneath. So just not even thinking about it, just focusing on the dots and the circles. And then every so often, when your line gets to meet another circle, you get a little bit of slightly more taxing work of drawing the lines at the estimated next start of where that circle is versus where the intersecting circles are. And you can do that for as long as you like on as large a page you like, or as small of a page as you like. And if you do it a lot and you get really good at it, this actually creates quite a nice visual art piece. And if you do it with different materials, so you can do it with this sort of artist fine liner pen. So these are just sort of literally called fine liners. This is a 0.3 version. And if you draw things with the fine liner, they're pitch black lines. But when you do have sort of an overlapping area, what they tend to do is create quite sort of darker spots. And it can make sort of shadows in the art piece, naturally occurring shadows. So the different things you choose to do the doodle with will give you different outcomes. So I've got a few different versions of this. You can carry on doing your dots and your circles for as long as you like. And I'm going to carry on talking and showing you different versions of this focused line technique so that you have options when you want to doodle. Because some of us, even when we try to mindlessly doodle, we're still all up in our heads, judging ourselves about a doodle that no one's going to see, and its sole purpose was to make you feel better. And you're there stressing about it. Oh, this doodle isn't good enough. Oh, why can't I make this doodle better? Oh my gosh, I'm just not a good enough doodler. Well, you are a good enough doodler. You can doodle away, and that's fine. But in order to get rid of that, if you have some preset doodles that you know already you can do and you're good at, then that takes that away immediately, and you're not even going to start that overthinking. So we've done our little dots and circles. So the next one we're going to do is a flower, a little hypnotic flower. So this one's a little bit quicker, depending on how quickly you draw it, obviously. So you're going to draw a little circle in the middle of the page. And then from that circle, you're going to draw a line from the edge of the circle, and it's going to be a swoopy line, like the side of a petal. And then you're going to move down the circle a little bit and draw another swoopy line that is sort of a mirror-ish of it. And then you've got a petal. So you're going to do the same all the way around the circle. And those swoopy lines, they can be as wiggly or as single swoop as you like. Thanks, Carolina. I really appreciate that. So, swoopy lines. I love a swoopy line. And see here, I've done a crossover. Now, how many of you would do that and then be like, oh, I've done a crossover, I've ruined the swoopy line. No, you haven't ruined the swoopy line. It's fine. You can do a crossover. It's your doodle. You do whatever you want. So the swoopy line is fine. And actually, if you do a crossover, it's kind of cool. I'll do a little swoop here. I'll do a little purposeful crossover. Oh, that's really pushing the boat out there. So then I've got this kind of multiple little spaces I've created. So all the swoopy lines, off we go. Okay. And then once you've made your petals, we're going to start doing circles again, but behind the petals. So I'll bring you back to this picture. You can see there that I've started drawing circles that would sit behind the flower. Swoopy lines, Emma, they're the best. Okay, so lots of lines like this. And so that would be a circle, but the flower is taking precedence. So I'm just drawing little curves in between all of my petals. And you don't have to worry about whether those lines line up or not. It doesn't matter. You're not doing this because you want them to line up. You're doing it because you want to take your mind off things, and you're just going to focus on drawing those lines and not on whether those lines adhere to any sort of structure of judgment at all. Okay, and then if you get to the edge here, so I've got, my petal doesn't come all the way to the edge on this bit. I'm just going to carry on with my circle. Just carry on. I just want to do it all the way to the edge. Super hypnotic flower. There we go. And if you're loving the hypnotic flower, because for some reason, some people absolutely love the hypnotic flower, then you can start putting some like fancy shading and stuff in there. And when I say fancy shading, I don't mean it's particularly fancy. I just mean you're going that extra step to do something extra on top of the hypno flower. So you might want to draw some lines in the leaves. Color in those extra gaps that you made there. You might want to do some zigzags in the hypno circles. So that's my hypno flower. Does anybody want to show me their hypno flower? I feel like I need to see some hypno flowers right now. Oh, Sarah. Oh, wow. Look at that. Gone for the leaves. Oh, Mark, that's a bit of a spy flower, that one. It's good. Okay, well, scrolling through just to see if anyone else is kindly showing us their art. Oh, Yogi, very good. Sky, did you just flash that flower up and I've missed it? You did. Oh, I love it. Oh, look at those wiggly lines at the sides. Brilliant. Carolina? Yes. Fantastic, everybody. Oh, Sarah. There it is. Beautiful. Great job, everybody. Okay. So that's the hypno flower. You can carry on again with your dots and swirls of your hypno flower. I'm going to give you another one. So we'll do two more. So this is very similar to the first one, but also different. So I call this mollusks because to me, they look like little mollusks. I quite enjoy this one myself. I think this might be my favorite one. So with this one, put a dot anywhere you like on the page. It has to be a bit of a substantial dot. It can't just be a pinprick. It needs to be an actual dot of substance. Okay. And then you're going to go about halfway down the side of the dot and draw a little loop that connects to halfway down the other side of the dot. So it looks a bit like a ring right now. Okay. And then you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to do it from the secondary one you just made. So now instead of a ring, it looks a little bit like some sort of interesting cake from France. Patissiere. Probably couldn't sell it, but I'm sure it tastes very nice. And then we're going to do the same thing again. The next one. Okay, so you're going to carry on doing that a few times until you're kind of happy with the mollusk. So, I mean, you can make it a huge mollusk if you like, if you just get stuck in that loopiness. And you'll hit a point where you're going to want to be less rounded at the edges and start to sort of square them off just a little bit. But feel free to be super rounded if you fancy that. So once your mollusk is the sort of size you want it to be, then you're going to draw another dot somewhere else on the page. So I'm going to draw mine just there. Okay. And now you're going to draw the mollusk again, but you're not going to draw it at the same angle. So the first one we did, we drew it downwards, with downwards loops. All hail the hypnoflower. That's right, Sarah, I agree. So on this one, our loops are going to go, I'm going to do them to the left. And actually, I'm going to do them to the left, but diagonally downwards. So that looks a bit like this. And then you'll see, just like the first task that we did, that I get to a point where I hit the mollusk. And I don't want to draw my lines over the drawing I've already done. So when I do my next line, when I hit the mollusk, I just take the pen off the paper, come to the other side of the mollusk and connect it back up at the other side. Do the same thing again until the mollusk is as big or as small as I want it to be, and as pointy or as rounded or as odd or as uniform as I fancy, because it's my doodle and it's not anybody else's. Okay, and then you're just going to carry on doing that. So you'll see there that in the example I gave you, there's sort of 4 or 5 mollusks, and you just carry on around the page. And you make as many mollusks as you like, and you layer them underneath each other. So I'm going to carry on drawing a few of these mollusks here, so you can see what's going on. And again, you don't have to think about it. It's just a shape, a line on a page for you to enjoy yourself, for yourself, to focus the mind. And keep it from wandering off and doing that thing it does. You might even want to do an upside down mollusk, so this one's going to go the other way around. Oh. There it goes. When I do this one, I always start imagining the sea. I start thinking about waves and rocks and times that I've been on beaches and been pebbles, or I might have done some crabbing or something and seen some mollusks. You might think of something totally different. You might think of the Michelin Man from Ghostbusters or something like that. It does look a bit like that. Okay. Stone stacking. Yeah, it does look like stone stacking. Definitely. I always fancied trying that, but I've never done it. It looks really, really enjoyable. Okay, so Fiona says it might be useful to turn your page around. So there's a top tip for you. Mark wants it as his wallpaper. Have to draw it up and make it so. Okay. And then we'll do just one more. So we're going to do, for those who aren't into curves and swoops, because we've done a lot of curves and swoops there, that's 3 different curvy, swoopy ones. Ooh. I'm going to do some more sharp lines this time. So, thank you, Jack. So, this is what we're going to be drawing. A kind of square, again, sort of slightly hypnotic shapes going down into a central point. I'm loving the conversation that's going on in the chat right now, but I can't comment. So you're going to split your paper into 4. So draw across. Okay. And then once you've drawn that cross, you're going to, let's start with the one at the top right-hand side. So you're going to move your pen in about 1/2 centimeter from the central line you've just drawn. And you're going to draw a diagonal line that goes to about 1/2 centimeter from the midpoint there. Okay, and then once you've done that, you're going to do the same thing. So you're going to start from the point you've just finished on and draw a line, a diagonal line that ends just before the end of the line you're going to. So I've not done that all the way, so I'm just going to do this. Okay, and then the same onto the next part. And then when you come back across the top, you're not going to square it off. You're going to drop. So you're still drawing a diagonal line. The diagonal line is going to go downwards. And you're just going to be a little bit further down from the top. If you can see that. So here's the line you're drawing to. And instead of drawing right to where you started it, you're dropping down about 1/2 centimeter. And then you're going to do the same thing. So you're drawing your line from where you've just come, 1/2 centimeter from the line underneath. Okay, so you get the idea. So without taking your pen off the page now, you're just going to continuously draw those diagonal lines, stopping about a little bit before the end of the line you're drawing next to. And you'll find you draw this sort of hypnotic little shape. Thank you, Jack. So this one's a lot faster than the other ones, because if you do draw the lines, because they're all one continuous movement, it's almost like just drawing a big swirl, only with lines instead of a swirl. So I'm going to do it again on the left-hand top side, as I can see some of you frowning at me. So, I see you, Leela. Okay, so we're going to go on the top. You're starting about a ½ centimeter in from the top. And where you're going to draw, so if I draw a little dot there where you're starting from, you're going to draw that diagonal line to about a ½ centimeter up from the bottom of that square. Okay, and your diagonal line looks a little bit like that. So you've got a little gap there and a gap there. Okay. So then the next diagonal line you're going to draw when you're on this bottom line, if you go take your pen to the middle point and come in to the left about ½ centimeter again, so about there. And you're going to go from the bottom of the line you've just drawn across to that point you just made there. Like so. You're going to do the same thing on this line on the right-hand side. So go to the top, go down about ½ centimeter from the top. Got that space here. And the line, the end of the line you just drew, up to that dot. Okay, so this is where people get a bit confused now. Okay, yeah. So you're going to go back across to the left-hand side of the page, and you can see the first diagonal line you drew. This line here. So on this line, you're going to come about a ½ centimeter down on that line. And draw a dot there. Okay. So you're then going to draw a line between the end of the line you just drew and the dot you've just made, cross like this. Yeah. And then you go down to the bottom line and you come in ½ centimeter from the left, like so. And then you're going to draw a diagonal from the end of the line you just drew to that point. And then we're going to go to the line on the right-hand side and go ½ centimeter up from the bottom. And draw that diagonal line again. So from the end of the line you just drew up to that point. Okay. So from this point, hopefully, you're now getting sort of the idea here that you're constantly drawing diagonal lines that drop around and about a ½ centimeter every time you draw onto the next line. Yeah, I agree, Lucy. Once you get it, definitely, it's easier just to do that swirl. Sorry, Satvinder, do you want me to try and close that up for you? You can see the dots and the lines. Hopefully that helps, but shout out or type if not. You got it, Kit? Okay, so once you start doing it in that fluid motion, you start drawing the diagonal lines that are about ½ a centimeter or so in from the edge. And you're just drawing them in this sort of slightly swirly pattern. Okay. So we are at 2 o'clock. Rico is very kindly letting me know that he can give me 5 to 10 more minutes if you would like a bit of extra time. So if you want to stay another 5-10 minutes, please do, and I'll talk about the secondary area I said I'd talk about to do with shading. And if not, that's fine. You can log off now. Okay, Kit, it was really nice of you to come. Great to see you. Am I doing it again? I'm sure I can organize another version of this event. I will have a look at it. You can follow me on various social medias. So I'll post on those. Okay, yeah. Well, Kit and Carolina, I'll have a look at it for you and I'll see if I can organize another one. Thank you both for coming. Okay, so anyone who wants to log off, thank you so much for coming to this event. I hope you found it relaxing and engaging, and you've learned some techniques that will help you in your future and allow you to feel more restored during this time. So for those of you who are choosing to stay around a little bit longer, we have a very short space of time, so I'm going to cover this very quickly. Thanks for coming, Pete. I really appreciate it. So I get another piece of paper. So this one you're really going to need a pencil for. You can do it with a pen, but it will be more difficult. So we're going to do it by a technique called automatic drawing, which is where you're just kind of mindlessly doing something. So rather than focusing on lines with this, what we want to focus on is shading. So you're literally going to take your pencil, put it on the page, and start coloring in. There's nothing to color in, but you're going to color in, and you're going to sort of use lighter and harder methods to do that, and you can start creating sort of shapes out of that. So this might feel really odd when you start doing it because it feels like you're just scribbling on a page. And to some extent, you are just scribbling on a page. But that's actually perfectly fine. And you might be surprised with what comes out when you do this. So this method can help in lots of different ways, but it's one of my favorite things to do because it's very freeing. You can do whatever you like and it's fine. And you'll learn as you do it that whatever medium you're using, so in my case, I've got a 2B mechanical pencil. I'll learn what its skills are. I'll learn what happens when I put a bit of pressure on it or take the pressure off. What happens if I draw swirls or if I draw squares. And that's helpful for when I'm trying to create other works and I have to think about what I'm going to use to do that or why I might use those tools to do that. So this one, literally, you'd stick some music on, or you could even have a conversation with a friend. You could call up a friend on whatever your favorite video chat or call app is. Just sit together and shoot the breeze while you kind of color in an imaginary space. And you'll find all sorts of shapes and things come out. So I mean, it's like cloud watching in the end. And as you do this, it gives your mind the freedom to expand. So when we were drawing the lines, you may recall I talked about how drawing the lines and focusing on the lines is a way of laser pointing your focus to the exclusion of other things, which is a valuable technique. But the other technique we might want to look at is including everything and accepting all of that, and yet still being able to maintain our balance. And you may have heard, if you've ever done any sort of formal meditation, thoughts being like clouds in the sky, and your mind being the expansive sky, and the thoughts come in and they're these clouds and you just see them drifting on. Well, with this sort of technique, you're letting your mind do whatever it does, and you're giving yourself a task. And as you color in and draw, it's more like lying in the grass and looking up at the sky, only you're making the sky on the page. And you're seeing the shapes that you've made. And it can enhance your creative capacities by not only giving you freedom, but also enabling the mind to look at things in a different way. So, those are some techniques that you can use to meditate while doing art, or to restore yourself while doing art. Remember that the art is for you. It is your art before it is anybody else's. And the amazing thing about art is that when you make it, only you could have made what you made. And it didn't exist before you made it. You created something and put it out into the world. And if anybody else chooses to have a judgment on that, they're very lucky that they even get to have a judgment, because you had to be there to make it. So that's a pretty awesome thing. So we are at the end of our time. I have really enjoyed spending this hour and a bit with you and sharing this space. I hope you've enjoyed it too. And yeah, sign off. Have a wonderful day, everybody.